All right, shalom, shalom. First and foremost, I want to give all praises, honor, and glory unto YAHAWAH, BAHASHAM, BAHASHAM, QADASH. Double honors to my apostles and elders of every millstone that rule well and teach well. Peace, blessings, and salutations to the hopeful elect. This is your fellow servant and brother Ariel from the GMS Orlando camp. I just want to make a quick lesson, a little walk and talk through the spirit, going into traveling or travailing. I don't think I have no internet right now, but I've gone into that word, travail, right? Because when you look at the book of Sirach, I believe it's chapter 34, verses, I believe 9 through 11, it goes into a man that has travailed much or traveled much. Now I say travail and travel because essentially it's the same thing, right? Not only does it go into, having been many places, than just your own hometown, okay? It gives you a completely different perspective when you look and go to a completely different environment, right? People move differently, people speak differently, they operate completely different, from what you're used to. So that's a good experience to get. But also travailing, that word travailing goes into suffering, basically, right? It goes into suffering, all right? So it's essentially the same thing. You travel much, you travail much, all right? Both work in you, experience. Doing both of those things will increase wisdom, all right? Lord's will, we're a part of that number, and you're, doing what you're doing for the right reasons, okay? Matter of fact, I'm gonna pull it up. So lucky if it's hella bright and it's glary. Bear with me. So this is the book of Sirach, chapter 34, starting at verse 9. A man that hath travailed or traveled knoweth many things, and he that hath much experience will declare wisdom. He that hath no experience knoweth little, but he that hath traveled or travailed is full of prudence. When I traveled, I saw many things, and I understand more than I can express. I was oft times in danger of death, yet I was delivered because of these things. The spirit of those that fear the Lord shall live, for their hope is in him that saveth them. Whoso feareth the Lord shall not fear nor be afraid, for he is his hope. So basically, you gain a lot of experience traveling, all right, going through, sufferings, going through trials, your faith being tested. All right, when you trust the Lord through it, that will increase your faith. Because it's like, well, I found myself in this situation, that situation, and then going into the traveling, I found myself in a whole new place, a place that I've never been before, right? A place I'm not familiar with. I don't know how they get down around here. I don't know nobody, or I just got my family or friends, whatever. I'm stepping out of my comfort zone, right? That will completely, that gives you a new perspective, right? And again, because of you being pushed outside of your comfort zone, you having to, operate outside of what you're used to, having to adapt to something new, right? Having to come to terms with, well, my perspective is going to have to grow outside of, the scope that I was conformed to, right? That facilitates a lot of growth. That facilitates a lot of change. A quote I like to bring out is, to learn is to change oneself. We're not in this thing to stay the same. Okay, we're not in this thing. We're not doing what we're doing to just be the same niggas that we was in the world. Like, the whole point is to grow. The whole point is to change. Okay? And the only way you can do that is by what? Traveling, travailing. If you know, Lord's will, if you can, right? If you're able to travel. You know, we're not one of these jakes in the world that are just gonna I mean, oh, you ain't traveled, you ain't been outside the country, you ain't did this and that. You know, making it a brag, a, a bragging, boasting kind of thing. No, it's not about that, right? Wherever you end up, that's where the Lord wants you to be. Whatever experience you need to get, that's what the Lord wants you to get. But it does help. It does help to broaden your horizons and get a change of scenery and whatnot, right? But the point being, basically, you don't want to limit yourself. You don't want to, be afraid of change. You don't want to be afraid of challenging yourself. Let's sit down for a minute. You don't want to be afraid of challenging yourself, right? Of stepping outside of your comfort zone. Trying something new. You don't even necessarily have to be traveling outside the country or traveling all these different states and whatnot. It could just be traveling to a new experience. Do something that, like, go out to a park. Brothers be, wanting to be antisocial, and man, that's me, right? But you got to push yourself to take your ass outside. You have some free time. Don't just be sitting out at home on Netflix and on the game all day. And no, challenge yourself to take a walk in the park. Challenge yourself to, if you got the means, go ahead and go to, on a little vacation, which is not really a vacation because you're still doing the work, right? But somewhere different, right? Again, like a change of scenery, that type of thing, right? Challenge yourself to do that, and you'll be refreshed. It's a refreshing thing. Okay, you interact with these people, entertain strangers. You may entertain angel unaware. Okay, even if not an angel, it's still you can learn from everything that you go through. Everything is a learning experience. That's how you have to look at it. And that's something that the Lord's been doing to me. That's my main thing. Is I've just grew up relying on my mom so much to where he pushed me to take a leap of faith. Threw me out into the waters. I had to completely leave my my comfort zone, where I was comfortable staying, where I was comfortable living, and I had to do it on my own to an extent. Couldn't just rely on my mom for the rest of my life. I had to, grow up. He pushed me to grow up, and that's what happened, right? So, and every brother's situation is unique, right? Everyone has a unique situation, okay? So it depends on you. It depends on what your circumstance is and what you maybe need to do. Okay? Some brothers, it might actually be the reverse. Some brothers don't never be at home. Brothers always want to go out. Well, try to look at some Netflix recommendations from brothers or some shit. Look at some movies. Try to Salakia. Yeah. Salakia. Try to Salakia. Just whatever it is. Again, it's unique to you. Right? You might be a brother that always be out. And it may be time for you to try staying in. Okay, see what you can glean, what spiritual lessons you can glean from some movies, some TV shows that brothers recommend. Because there's always something to learn. There's always something to get. I'm not saying sit there and binge or anything, but be comfortable with change. Be comfortable with having to adapt. Okay, you don't ever want to be comfortable. You You don't want to be sedentary. I believe it's called sedentary, a sedentary lifestyle, which basically goes into a shut-in, right? You're just stuck there doing the same thing, stuck there just, living a hermit kind of lifestyle. You don't want to do that. You don't want to be, unwilling to change, unwilling to adapt. A lot of our people, they're stuck in their ways, and that's not how you want to be. All right, stuck in their ways, just unwilling to change, unwilling to do something different. Nah, man. Brothers is very what do you call that? Flexible. Brothers are very flexible, and experience and wisdom teaches you that. Okay. So that's pretty much the lesson. That's pretty much what I wanted to go into. I pray this is edifying, exhorting, and uplifting to the spirit and power of YAHAWAH, BAHASHAM, YAHAWASHI, the YAHAWAH, BAHASHAM, YAHAWASHI, KAYAHA, RAWCHAA, QADASH, bestowed upon me to bring out this lesson and push forth this word. I always wonder what people think when they hear me speaking Hebrew like that, like them long sentences. I wonder what it sounds to them. Or maybe you're just speaking some other language. Just thinking out loud, but hey, peace, blessings, and salutations to the hopeful elect. Alright, and blessings, honor, glory, and power be unto YAHAWAH, YAHAWASHI, Tham Yad, Wa, La, Avalamyam, always and forever. Shalom.